to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm my gaming to-do list didn't really happen the 6 weeks host, Madelyn.
I'm your strictly regimented gaming time habits host, Emma.
And thanks for tuning in for the side quest episode of the show. As you may have guessed from our monikers this time, it's been 6 weeks. Again! How does that keep happening every 6 weeks? And so it's time in our side quest cycle for us to talk about what we've been playing for this past month and a half since Valentine's Day.
Yeah, in this case, rather than being like, what, it's been 6 weeks, it feels more like, how has it not been 12 weeks for me?
Really?
But
see, I felt like February, those first 2 weeks of the 6 week cycle were about 20 years. And then for me anyway, March was just like, it's gone.
It's been going, like, I keep thinking like, it must be April now, but it's still not April, it's still March.
It's tough going from that 28-day month to that 31-day month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tough adjustment?
Yeah.
Well, Emma, do you want to lead it off this week? What's the first game you want to share that you've been gaming away at?
Well, I mean, how many games do you have?
Really only 3 and some change, so you should go first.
Yeah, okay. Alright, I have 5 and some change, so...
I can talk about Yakuza in 2 slots, so you go ahead.
We'll figure out the order. I guess I'll just start with Trails of Cold Steel 3, which I did finish during this 6 weeks. I kind of thought, because like I said, it felt like 12 weeks. I was like, maybe I finished this not during the 6 weeks, but no, it was. I finished it. I enjoyed it. I did. I think it's my favorite of this series so far. That doesn't mean it's like anywhere close to being on my favorite games of all time list, but
which you can find on Emma's Twitter if you want to see it.
Yeah, but as far as this series go, I think it was pretty good. It was really good. I think I talked about this last time, but I think that comes down to, I think that the 4 new characters and 1 returning character who's now a main character. I think that they're probably the strongest characters in this series so far to date. I was really invested in their plot lines and their stories. And I think that even made Reen better, like, in comparison. Like, his scenes with them were just better, generally. Because they were interesting characters. So they make him interesting characters. I think that all of the first 2 games main cast going into smaller roles also made me like them more, because they're there as much as they're interesting to be there, basically. However...
Oh boy, here it comes.
I am very worried going into 4, when I do go into 4, just based on this game, because it absolutely... Despite liking a lot of it, it absolutely shows signs of already being overstuffed with things happening. I mean, they added 5 new characters with, like, arcs. And they've got all the old characters, you need to have arcs. And they keep adding villains without getting rid of any villains. So they all have to have arcs, apparently. So in 3, there's a lot of stuff happening, and even the plot lines that I find really compelling, it makes it so that I have to do a lot of the work to make it compelling, like, it gives you all the pieces, but then it's like, okay, now you do the work to make it interesting, right? Rather than it doing the work itself to make it interesting. Does that make sense?
It does. Like, you have a bunch of compelling characters, but you have to kind of put the pieces together of, like, the growth, maybe?
Yeah, and even, like, the arcs, right?
Yeah.
Like, they make sense when you think about it, but it's like they give you... It's like a connect the dots puzzle, but they give you, like, 4 dots and are like, draw a dog.
What is it?
It's not even just like, what is it? It's just like, it tells you what it is, but then it only gives you like half of the dots that you would actually need to fill it in, and so it trusts you to like fill the rest in yourself based on what you think a dog looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I think the best example is like the Crow plotline. So spoilers, but I mean I've talked about this on the podcast before. There's the first game and second game, a lot of like the central thing for Reen, and even this was kind of contracted in the same sort of way as a lot of the plot lines are contracted in this one. But a lot of the main like emotional thrust for Reen is there's his friend named Crow. At the end of the first game, it's revealed that Crow's been like this terrorist leader named C, and he has a mech that's like Reen's mech. And the second game is a lot of them like butting heads against each other on opposite sides. And then at the very end, he comes back and is skewered and dies by the final boss. So he's dead, presumably. But 3's like, wait, though, he's not actually dead, because there's this, like, secret society that is, like, bringing people back to life somehow. We didn't get full answers on that. It's fine. So he's alive without his memories. He's wearing this mask. He's calling himself Azure Siegfried, because of course he is. And there's points in the thing where Reen sees him and is like, no, it's not Crow, right? Against all logical thought processes, which, to be fair, is fine. A lot of Reen's emotions in this is a lot of, like, grief and guilt and stuff. So, like, it makes sense that, like, he wouldn't think about it logically. He would just be like, he's dead, it's my fault. He can't be alive because that ruins my worldview, basically. And then, so it sets that up, and then there's not, like, an ending to it, because Reen has, like, 15 other things he has to do, right?
Relatable.
So there's not even, like, a big confrontation, really. There's not, it's a very small moment right at the very end when Crow remembers things, and it's not very dramatic, and, you know, like, it's all these things that, like, should be interesting and good. And even I'm doing it. It's like, oh, yeah, Reen's not thinking about this because it makes sense because of its worldview. But the game doesn't really give you that. It just sort of expects you to get that, you know? So, like, it feels this way for a lot of plot lines within this of, like, it's got, like, all the steps, like, they're happening, they're presented to you, but then they don't have, like, the emotional or thematic through line between them because there's, like, 12 other things happening and it doesn't have time. And this is just setup, and so 4 has to resolve everything, and I just simply don't think that it can do that in a way that is good. Okay, and so, that is my thoughts on 3.
So 1, I feel like I understand that tweet that gave you psychic damage a lot better now that I've heard you talk through this.
Yeah. I saw a tweet that said, like, Trails of Cold Steel is what Kingdom Hearts haters thinks Kingdom Hearts is. And I was like, oof.
It's super effective.
Because it is so right.
But 2, I would be curious to hear, because I could definitely see there being a problem on the other side, and I think a lot of the times in games that have, like, big narratives, the problem is sometimes that they don't trust you enough to understand what's going on with the character, to be able to put the pieces together. And so, is the problem here, like, I guess what's your perspective on, is the problem here that they don't give you enough, like, objectively in each thing, or is the problem that there's just too much going on at once? So, like, would these stand alone okay?
I mean, you would have to, I just think you would have to flesh them out. It's like every plot line has, like, event, right? It has those dots. And then there's no lines between them, I guess. Like, you can fill in those lines, but because those things only come up during those events.
Right.
And in between, there's, like, 12 other things happening.
Like, classic.
That also, like, in between those 12 other things, between the next time you touch on one of those, there's 12 other things happening. So it's just, like, there's too much, And so nothing, like, feels like it smoothly goes together.
Right.
All the plot lines feel very choppy, except maybe Altina. Like, Altina's growth. But even that is, like, supplemented by whose bonding events you choose to do. So, like, I did a lot of Altina's. So that sort of character arc for her felt smoother because the bonding events touch on that. But if I hadn't done any of her bonding events, I think it probably would have felt choppy as well.
Yeah, it does feel like kind of the classic, I mean, for me it's the classic Fire Emblem problem, but I'm sure this is the case in a lot of these character-driven RPG, JRPG games of you have all this character development that's taking place in things that are either optional or semi-optional, right? And then because there's so much going on and so many characters at any given time, if they were actual people, you'd expect those things that are happening to them to interact in some way. Not like literally, like I don't mean like Crow should be talking to people, like to Reen's friends or whatever, but you would expect that those would be mentally combining in the brain juices or whatever. But they're like all independent. So that sounds to me, I get that.
It is a little different from Fire Emblem because you have like certain times you can choose bonding events, and the bonding events are unique for that time. You don't get Yuna's first bonding event on like your third slot. You've missed it, right? You get whatever she's doing at that time. So it's slightly different from the way Fire Emblem works. It feels like those bonding events like smooth the lines a little bit, but you can't do all of them each time. You only have a certain number of points, which makes it feel like, why? Like, just let me do all of them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also...
I don't know what this is adding.
I mean, how long did you spend playing this game? This, to me, anyway, doesn't feel like...
Like 90 hours. 80 hours, something like that.
Look, I get that I'm not really a game replayer. Like, I don't have a lot of patience for replaying games, particularly in kind of close proximity to each other. New Game Plus is just not something, unless... except in the rare, like, Nier Automata cases where it's not really New Game Plus. I have little patience and little interest in that, mostly. Unless I need to finish up a Cabaret Club story, for example. But particularly for a game that is 90 hours long, it seems like a lot to expect. Well, you can do like a third of these things on each run.
Yeah. And it definitely does encourage replaying it. Like, you can unlock things from New Game Plus to make that your life easier. And the second game, and I knew this going into 3, so I was ready for it, but the second game, there's plot-relevant stuff that happens only on your second replay.
That's BS.
Which, like, who would want to play Trails of Cold Steel 2 again? God.
When did Trails of Cold Steel 2 come out?
It came out on the Vita originally, so a while ago. Within this century.
Well, thanks. I guess,
I'm not sure exactly.
You know, for a Vita game, I guess, if you're thinking of it as a game that people are playing commuting, right? It's just like a comfortable commuting game. That's, to me, a little weird. That's not what I would play on well, I don't know. I played some Fire Emblem. I took Fire Emblem with me on trains.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of, like, you know, running through areas, fighting battles type scenes, So
I guess I could see someone playing it that way, potentially replaying it. Especially if you're in the position of... What I was thinking of is, if this is coming out before or around the time that cheaper independent games are really blowing up digitally, I could see there being a justification of, well, people buy one game a quarter and they want to get all their money's worth out of it. Like that gamer perspective. Of incentivizing second runs, but that's just never been. And maybe this is certainly me coming from a position of relative privilege, I guess. But it's like, you know, when I'm done with the game, I want to play the other games that I've bought for myself.
Yeah, it came out in 2014 in Japan and 2016 over here.
Okay, so then that doesn't really apply. But it could still, I mean, that's still a mentality that's definitely out there.
Anyway, I will check back sometime this summer when I play 4 because I feel obligated to do it. And also I care a decent amount about where Yuna, Kurt, Altina, Ash, and Mise are going at least. So,
do these games
we'll
always have to have a character that's named Ash?
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a requirement for any kind of vaguely fantasy RPG.
I didn't send you this, but all the achievements for, like, maxing out your bond level with someone are, like, puns. So, for Ash, so Reen's knight is the Ashen Chevalier, that's what they call. So, the achievement for maxing out Ash's event is Ash and Chevalier.
Stop that. That's so funny.
Isn't that so good?
I do. I love that.
There's some other good ones, but we'll move on. It's your turn.
Okay. So I'll start off with the one game that I finished this 6 weeks, which is Bugsnax. Talking about it. So yeah, I did finish my way through Bugsnax. I mean, I didn't platinum Bugsnax because there's all sorts of, like, nonsense trophies of, like, feed them a Happy Meal, like, feed, like, we used to feed the villagers, and I was, like, avoiding feeding Bugsnax to the villagers, so I was like, I don't know about this, except when I have to, but, yeah, there's, like, all these BS trophies. I'm sure they're funny. I didn't have the patience to go back and do it, but I did catch them all. I caught every Bugsnax.
Wow.
I didn't even cheat. It was very hard. Part of it was I was afraid that I was already at the end when in fact I was, like, several story events from the end, and there was another couple items that I was going to get that made capturing some of the snacks easier to possible. I spent a very long time trying to get a Chillanilla or whatever it was, when I eventually had, like, a fire shooter that I could use. So spoilers for Bugsnax coming, I guess, because mostly what I want to talk about is the ending portions of Bugsnax. Because I think 6 weeks ago and on the Bugsnax show, I talked a lot about kind of like, oh yeah, the catch 'em all feeling, and the characters really shine. And that all continues to be true. For me, I would have liked all of their arcs to end with just a smidge more closure. I think there were a lot of arcs that I ended with where they're like, oh, okay. And I kind of expected there to be, like, one more side quest event where everyone learned a big lesson and became friends. There was sort of that at the very end, the very, very end. But, yeah, I just wanted a little bit more wholesome closure to some of my arcs. So, the ending of Bugsnax, you've probably heard about it a little already if you've been plugged into the Bugsnax talking about discourse. But here's what happens, and here's where major spoilers begin, folks. So you've been looking for Lisbert the entire time, and you find her. Well, first you find Eggabell, who's her partner, and with Eggabell on the frozen mountain, you, like, open up a secret door. And then you find Lisbert underground, who has been combined and fused into a giant Bugsnax creature. And it's pretty horrifying for a game that did not really hint up to this point that Bugsnax were particularly bad. I think maybe my major critique of Bugsnax is it all ratchets up just a bit too fast. There's nobody else in the village, really. I mean, there are a couple people who are like, I don't eat Bugsnax. You know, Gramble doesn't eat them because he loves them. Our sage character doesn't eat them.
You can feed them to Gramble, though.
Really?
When he's sleepwalking at night.
Oh, no, I never tried to do that. That's
horrible.
You
can feed them.
That's awful. That's horrible. Gramble. I would never do that to Gramble. And then also there's a sage character who does eat Bugsnax, but at least makes a big deal out of them being impure to everyone else, right? But it turns out Bugsnax are a parasite, and they, like, turn you into Bugsnax, eventually, basically. Which shouldn't have been surprising. You eat them and you turn partially into Bugsnax, so, like, nobody was worried about that. This whole you are what you eat mentality. But Lisbert, the volcano is about to explode again. Bugsnax. And so we have to get off the island, and Lisbert has to, hold it back, but she can't. So Eggabell joins the big Bugsnax creature with her. And then together, you go and rescue... Not together. I mean, Lisbert and Eggabell have to stay and die. Only maybe
Filbo,
not.
Right?
What?
Filbo.
No, Filbo is fine.
I said you and Filbo.
Oh, me and Filbo. I thought you said no, Filbo. I was like, I don't think Filbo died. Yeah, me and Filbo, my buddy Filbo, Ryuji Filbo, go back to the village and, save everyone. And as I was playing it, I mean, as someone who kind of 100%ed it, right? I was playing through this sequence where you save all the villagers, and I was like, I'm not doing that well at some of these challenges. I guess the difficulty curve just isn't that high here. And maybe it wasn't, but I found out after the fact that if you haven't, completing 100% of the side quests gives each Grumpus immunity, right? They can't die. But if you don't complete their whole arc, they can die.
Yeah. They, explode into Bugsnax.
Do they? What the... What? No!
They say something that's their arc, they've learned the wrong lesson from their arc, right? They've reverted back to their bad selves, and then they burst into Bugsnax.
No, they don't.
You're right. They do, but we can pretend they don't if that's better.
Anyway. That final arc, I saw this in a few reviews of it that I read after the fact, and I agree. Most of the game up to that point has been about kind of slowly and methodically waiting for the right moment to get a Bugsnax. And so the final thing being okay, you're gonna do this under extreme time pressure. I mean, I get it. It's sort of realistic, right? At what point would your character learn to do this? But also, some of the stuff just doesn't feel built. Some of the tools don't really feel built for this kind of speed thing. And if I had had characters die on me, I think I would have been a little bit frustrated, because the game definitely doesn't train you at any point to be working with your tools in this way. Again, that makes total plot sense. Why would it? But I do feel like you have to balance a little bit of the gaminess of this here, that maybe there should have been a little bit more practice with that. And then, of course, the Grumpinati are real. They were real all along.
It's very weird.
So I guess Bugsnax 2 coming in 7 years, given their current track record of how often they make games at Young Horses.
Yeah.
Genuinely shocking that the Josh and I were joking about it. We were like, haha, what if the Grumpinati are real? As I was playing, and then the Grumpinati were real. Also, Lisbert and Eggabell seem to have survived somehow. They weren't...
Also, you brought a Strabby to the mainland, so...
I don't know why we all thought we could go to the mainland. All these Bugsnax contaminated people... I don't know why they thought...
Goes away, apparently.
I guess. We don't know that, do we? I guess we did have the mad scientist.
Bilbo looks fine in the last scene, right?
They all seem fine. But you don't know. There could be a little Bugsnax implanted in their brain. Bilbo is mayor now. Of the real world. We should have quarantined ourselves a little longer. That's all I'm saying.
I hope the next one's a real, horror game.
It feels like it has to be. Or it could be about the romance between... Oh, I finished this so long ago now. I don't remember. Chandlo and...
Snorpy?
And Snorpy, yes. Chandlo and Snorpy, a true power couple. Again, should the game have treated Snorpy with a little bit more... I mean, look, he was right in the end, right?
I know. So, that's kind of unfortunate, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's should we have treated Snorpy a little bit less gently about his conspiracy theories everywhere in this game that released in 2020? Perhaps.
Yeah.
In the end, though, he was right. So, maybe not.
The fact that he was right, though, again, in 2020, maybe we should think about that, but, that's okay.
But I would still recommend Bugsnax. It was fun, it was soothing. I got a little too into catching every bug snack, I think. But in my checking things off the list gaming method, it was satisfying to have caught all the snacks.
No. I guess my turn again?
You bet. I've talked about Bugsnax. They played the song at the end. Finally. That's my other critique.
Good.
You got that bopping
credit
song, and you only played in the credits?
The credit song.
Well, I realized it was kind of the instrumental the whole time.
It should have played during, like, the horror sequence when you're trying to fight the Bugsnax, I think.
That would have been good. Melancholy version, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Acoustic.
Or, like, really intense orchestral version.
Yeah.
Like, One-Winged Angel, but Bugsnax. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. Alright, what's your next game?
Well, I've started, it's Strikers here, or Scramble, or Strikers? I can never, I keep forgetting which one it is.
I didn't even realize there were two. I sort of did realize there were two names, but that hadn't really crossed my mind that one was Japan. I'm pretty sure it's Strikers.
Yeah, I think so too, because I think it's P5 Scrambled the Strikers in Japan, and just P5 Strikers over here. But I've started, Persona 5 Strikers, the Muso-style Persona 5 sequel. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's very fun. I got it on the Switch, so I can play it in handheld. It's not affected by drift, thankfully, so that's good. So the concept of P5S is it's after just the base Persona 5, not Persona 5 Royal. But the concept is you come back, your characters come back for the summer to, like, hang out with your friends and have barbecues and stuff and do summer stuff. But then there's this new app that everybody has, a Siri-style app called Emma.
Ah!
It's me. And you can also friend people on Emma. So when you're out in Shibuya with Ryuji and Morgana one time, you happen upon this event where this like fashion designer idol type person is handing out their Emma keywords, right? So you can friend them on Emma. And you put it into Emma, and then it brings you into what appears to be the metaverse. So pretty similar to the metaverse nav, but publicly available.
I don't know why these kids aren't more suspicious about apps after the metaverse thing. Go on.
So you end up, they start calling them jails, and, like, the concept is when people put their keyword into Emma, they're brought there and their desires are seized, right? And basically they become obsessed with the monarch of that jail, the ruler of that jail.
Sure.
So all of their dreams are sort of replaced with just, I want to support this one person and make them famous and stuff. With the exception, of course, of the Phantom Thieves, because they've got, like, they're strong of heart or whatever, yeah. So instead of turn-based battles, you get sort of this hybrid Muso system where there's you button mash in different combos to do melee fighting, and then you can also use persona skills, and when you do that, time freezes for a bit while you're deciding what to do. So it's sort of a hybrid sort of system.
Final Fantasy VII system.
Yes. You can play as any of the characters. There's also a new party member named Sophia, who you find in that first metaverse in a cube. She is also an AI. She's called herself Humanity's Companion, but can't remember anything else besides that. And now she lives in Joker's phone. So Joker will never be alone again, because now he has a talking cat and a talking phone.
I've not figured out what it is yet.
It's still not a cat. He's still not a cat. Even though he is. One thing that I find interesting... Well, okay, so I really like this for one thing because it has the benefit of having the whole group together from the start instead of like building them up as time goes. So you can already have like a big group dynamic where they can play off of each other instead of just having to introduce new people.
Right. Haru gets less of the short stick, I guess, hopefully. Yeah.
Each of them also, all the dungeons so far have sort of focused in on one of the characters, and it's all been characters that sort of, like, An is the first one, who, I think in the base game, like, after the dungeon, sort of, nothing really happens with her, and then Yusuke, and now Haru's getting, like, her own dungeon.
Persona 5 is actually a really good example of that, like, JRPG issue we were talking about with Cold Steel, actually. Maybe more so, even than Fire Emblem. Anyway, go on.
I think that's a good example. But it's nice that it's focusing on some characters who didn't get as much spotlight in the base game. I think that's good. And I also really like that all of the palace dungeon, the jail dungeons so far, like the leader has been, rather than just being like straightforwardly evil, has been like someone who's been sort of like stepped on by the world and has decided to sort of use this power in order to get their own power back. So it's been a little bit more like, they've been a little bit more interesting than I remember finding the palace rulers in the base game, because like you're able to, they're not just like, oh, this mob boss guy is evil. Like there's some satisfaction in that, but this feels a little bit more like, I guess thoughtful about it, you know?
I think it would have been hard for the base game to support villains you felt conflicted about. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I'm just saying, I do appreciate that change in this because they have the room for it now, and it's just a little bit more. The villains are just a little bit more like compelling overall, which is cool. So yeah, I mean, I really recommend it. I wasn't expecting to like it this much. It's definitely still got some of that, like, you know, Persona perviness from here and there.
Oh dear.
But generally, I think that the dialogue and the voice acting is really, really a big step up also. Like, just because you've got all these people playing off each other, and they're clearly having a lot of fun playing the characters again. The audio mixing is slightly off. I don't know what's up with it, but only the PC version has audio options, apparently, for some reason. So some of the voices are kind of quiet, or maybe more the music is kind of loud, in my opinion.
Isn't that what you want?
I've seen people say the voices are quiet. I think the voices are fine. I think the music is too loud.
Now, but your Persona music's gotta be at 15, you know?
I know. It's fine in battle. It's like during talking scenes, like the music
I'm
feels
just
like...
teasing. I got it.
And then by the time I turn it down so the music is comfortable, then the voices are too quiet. So that's my like one complaint so far. But otherwise I've been really enjoying this. I've been really enjoying going back to this cast and all the cool aesthetics and stuff. Plus, it's a road trip across Japan, so it's basically just like tourism, the game, also.
Emma, you could not have handed me a more perfect segue. Speaking of tourism, trip across Japan, road trip the game, that's right, it's time for our 6-weekly Yakuza segment here for me. So I've not managed to keep up, you know, it was going to be unsustainable at some point. I've not managed to keep up the finish a Yakuza every 6 weeks pace that I had been doing the past couple of podcasts.
Alas.
But here we are, Yakuza 5. I opted to, Dead Souls is next chronologically, and I am going to have to buy it on the PS3 store before it shuts down, so I can have my other playable Majima zombie adventure.
Yeah.
But I did go on to Yakuza 5 because I already own it, and I wanted to know what happens. And wow, this game is off the rails. I think in a good way, but just absolutely unhinged. I feel like most of the Yakuza series, the problem is not the problem, but something you get used to over time, and something that impeded me getting into Zero when I started it, is they start off kind of slow. right? There's a lot of introduction. There's a lot of like, let's meet this guy. Bum bum. Right? Here's the name moments.
You gotta have the bump bump.
I mean, you gotta have that. No complaints about that. And there's been some of that. But usually it feels to me like it starts off slow. Eventually you get into it enough that you're doing all the side quests and you kind of forget that the story isn't moving at much of a pace. And then right in the last quarter, everything gets insane. And then right in the last eighth, everything gets really, really insane. And the woman character dies. And some other people die too.
Haruka gets to see her father die.
Date comes in his helicopter with Haruka, usually also with his former colleague at the police station. That's like, well, why are we doing this? In Yakuza 4 especially, he was like, this isn't police business. You're a newspaper guy. What are we doing? And he was like, let me throw my papers so everyone knows this man is corrupt. Date, freaking wild man.
He's a drama queen.
He is. I love the final act helicopter. It doesn't make any sense. It made sense in like the first game, and after that, it's like we're just gonna keep doing this. But usually, also, I mean, even 4, which I think kind of expanded, in expanding to playing as 4 different people, expanded the story in a certain way and accelerated the story in a way that I think was sometimes positive and sometimes negative. I talked about this last time, right? About how I was so interested enough in what was happening in the story that I was accidentally advancing and then kind of messed up the pacing at the end. And obviously we've had Kiryu play in Okinawa and in Osaka and Sotenburi before. But for the most part in 2 and 3 and those other city segments, like, those were clearly not the main event, right? The time you spent in these other cities either was, I mean, like, Sotenburi in 2 was not it's not really the central part of what was going on, and then Okinawa was obviously the appetizer to Kiryu returning to Kamurocho. But 5 is just like, what if Yakuza, but all of Japan? Some in the beginning.
Snowy mountains.
Seriously.
Bear.
Seriously, though. But for real. So it starts off, right? It's Yakuza 5, so I'm assuming it seems like there's going to be 5 playable protagonists. I've gotten to 4 of them now. So it starts off with Kiryu, who, if you know anything about Yakuza 5, here's where spoilers begin, I guess. This is the very beginning of the game, right? But it's hard to talk about the game without talking about the plot a little bit. So Kiryu has moved to Fukuoka, I think. I'm doubting myself. There's a lot of Fuku.
Sure, that sounds familiar.
And he's now living as taxi driver Taichi Suzuki. And he's very sad. He wears sad sweatpants. He has a sad lady around that he won't make his girlfriend.
Kiryu, no.
He lives in these sad, tiny little apartments. And does nothing but drive taxis. And Kiryu does have a real talent for stumbling into civilians who are very kind to him. The taxi driving company is, like, they all just really like him and care about him and take care of him.
That's good.
And this happens to him, like, every game. Like, his real estate company and Zero, like, he just always has these, like, good civilians helping him out.
Yeah.
But he's moved to Fukuoka because Haruka, 16 now, they grow up so fast, and wants to become a pop idol, and sort of rightfully so. The person who's, like, offering that opportunity to her is like, well, her Yakuza dad can't really be around if she's going to be a pop idol, so you need to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take care of the rest of the orphans if you go away. And so he does. Now, why anyone thought that that was going to work? It hasn't, to be clear, I have not gotten to a point in the game yet where Haruka has been exposed as, like, having, like, 5 Yakuza dads. But I don't really know.
There's so many of them. We gotta make all of them go away. Is that why Machima's dead?
Yeah, they were like, we can't have Uncle Majima around. He kidnapped you once. No, there appears to be they haven't revealed this yet, but I have big suspicion about how Majima and this person who is offering Haruka this opportunity are linked. And it's gonna be freaking wild if this is confirmed.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know why, like, the whole premise of this, it's like, Haruka was, like, literally in these helicopters for 3 out of the 5 games, at least. And it just wouldn't take any effort at all. I mean, literally, it's like, anyone just has to be like, remember that time that the Millennium Tower blew up and rained cash from the sky? She was involved in that. Like, it just doesn't feel like it would be that hard to figure this out. She runs around town with Kiryu playing arcade games all the time.
Right, yeah.
Like, everyone knows who the Dragon of Dojima is.
Yeah.
So the premise of that, I'm like, okay, but, like, they're gonna find out anyway. Whatever. Anyway. So he's in Fukuoka, laying low, thinking he's escaped the Yakuza. And something I really appreciate about Yakuza 5 is I think that it's, well, previous games have done a lot of this, like, he tries to leave and then he comes back. I do feel like this game is grappling a little bit more with, like, well, actually, Kiryu really can't leave, no matter how much he would want to. And paying a little bit more attention to, okay, when does he purposely seize this power of being the 4th chairman of the Tojo, and when is he trying to escape? And it's been interesting. It was interesting in Kiryu's arc to see him, like, really kind of seize hold of the fact that, like, well, there's nothing I can do. Like, I am the 4th chairman always, so might as well beat up some dudes. Anyway, Tojo clan in trouble. I mean, no surprise, right? But in major trouble this time. In that Daigo came to Fukuoka to make an alliance and disappeared. Majima, as Emma said, went to Sapporo and was murdered, presumably. And some other guy, or some other Yakuza lieutenant, who I don't think I actually know who he is, went somewhere else and also died. But in Kiryu's arc, the guy that was, like, seemed to be partially in charge of the overthrow was murdered by another mook. And same deal, the guy who seemed to be involved in Majima's death was murdered by... There have been so many twists. I haven't been ready for it. It was like chapter 4, and it's like, everybody's dead. Like, dead. Betrayal. Kiryu fights. There have also been a ton of... It's like, finally in this game, they figured out how to actually have as many enemies as are there be active at a given time in a fight. Like, in 3, which I played, 3 months ago, we had a big fight outside of the Diet Building. And, like... You would fight, like, in the Kingdom Hearts, like, Thousand Heartless style, you would fight, like, 6 guys, and the other guys are in, like, a circle on the outside, and then they step in. This game, it's like, nope, there's 30 guys, and they are all enemies. Which I'm like, yes, this is so satisfying. These big group fights are, like, so good.
Is 5 the first one on the Dragon engine?
No, 6 is.
No.
This is still the PS3 remaster. But I do feel like I've seen the technology advance. So that's been fun. But also, yeah, Yakuza 5 is like 5 different games. I mean, Kiryu's a taxi driver, so you do play like Crazy Taxi, very calm Crazy Taxi, and you also I did the whole drag racing arc, because I had to. And then you switch back to Saejima, who's going back to prison, because of course he is, so that he can emerge as captain of the Tojo clan. And before he goes into prison, Majima's like, oh, we're getting old. I'm getting old. And then he's dead when he comes out. The big dramatic reveal of both Kiryu and Saejima, like, finding out that Majima is dead. Oh, it's so good. I'm really liking 5. The pacing is god-awful. Like, there's so much... There's, like, these, like, fiery bursts of, like, twist. And then you spend 3 hours hunting animals in a small village once you've escaped from prison. And, like, Saejima knows how to ride a snowmobile. There was this whole segment where you were in prison, and one of the guys you were in prison with was, like, you were, like, envisioning his life in Sapporo. These, like, dream segments, like, following his life. It's like, what? Yo! the warden just told me I can is gonna help me break out of prison. Like, I don't want to do a Dream Sapporo segment. Leave me alone. And finally, sorry, I've been talking about this for 20 years, but this game, there's so much going on. Then the third segment, you play as a Haruka. And it's like, everything up to this point has been like, Tojo clan, in crisis, betrayal everywhere. Like, Saejima being betrayed by someone was shocking. I should have seen it coming, but I only saw it coming like 30 seconds before it happened, and I was like, no! 5 is very good. If you want to jump into the series not from the beginning, 5 is probably actually kind of a good place to start, because they do a decent job of introducing who these characters are to you, but also it's unhinged. In the middle segment, your middle protagonist, Haruka, dope. Am I about to do some karaoke with Haruka? No, she doesn't have any karaoke songs where she sings. Dope. Am I about to fight people on the street with Haruka? No. Idol Simulator! Rhythm game, handshake events.
That's sort of like karaoke, right?
Yeah, I know, but I was so disappointed when I went to the karaoke thing. It's like, no, she doesn't. She only does backup, and her backup is kind of lame compared to the dudes.
That's sad.
Yeah, some bad stuff has happened. Haruka found, like, a mom. She found a mom. They went on, like, a wholesome mom shopping trip. I, like, teared up a little. Haruka deserves nice things.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Akigama's in town. Because of course he is. And he loves Haruka. I don't know why no one's like, oh, the fact that she knows this notorious kind of moneylender is probably also bad.
Yeah, seems bad.
Side note, I only just got that his company is called Sky Finance because the money came from the sky. Like an hour ago. Not an hour ago, like an hour ago when I was playing. I was like, oh, Sky Finance. But now they're investigating a potential murder together.
Oh, good. That's good for idols.
I know. Haruka's like literally in the middle of competing in this like big Osaka television idol competition. But the woman who, this will be my ending thing, the woman who took Haruka in to be an idol has a mysterious husband. Who went to Tokyo after they got divorced and went down a bad path.
Mm.
Who could it be?
Mm. Mm. Who could it be?
Anyway, yeah, I'm really enjoying 5. The pacing is terrible. Like, it's just absolutely garbage. I've spent so much time doing these dumb idol minigames with a Haruka. And, like, dance battles on the street. The music's bopping, though, so...
As long as you're having fun, you know?
I'm enjoying it. This game is way too long, and like I don't know how the twists at the end are gonna keep up, but I'm here for it. I'm along for the ride. Throwing it back to you. Also, you punch a bear a lot.
Good. The other game that I finished during the 6 weeks was called Gnosia. Pretty sure you pronounce the G. It's single player Mafia, basically.
Interesting.
So you play as a character on the ship. There's other crew there. And when you wake up with no memories, but
Sure.
You wake up to a crisis, essentially, where this creature called Nos can infect humans and turn them into Gnosia, who seek the destruction of humans, right? So each turn, so the ship's AI is basically supposed to just like wipe out the ship when that happens, but you come up with a system where you put one person in cold sleep before warp that you think could be Gnosia, and then once Gnosia signals are done, you know the ship will be like, okay, you're all human now. So it won't eliminate you, which is the reason for this. There's all these different AI characters, and during each round, there's like 5 rounds of debate where people can like doubt or cover for each other, basically based on who they think Gnosia is. And at the end, you vote for who you want to put in cold sleep. Then there's a warp period, and during that warp period, the Gnosia can eliminate one person. So it's Mafia or Werewolf, basically. But rather than being... It's a little bit more complicated than Among Us, because Among Us doesn't have the extra roles that Werewolf and Mafia do.
I'm just kidding. Go on.
No, I'm just saying, it's fine to compare it to that, but it is a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Because there's also different roles. There's the engineer, who can investigate whether a person during each warp and say whether they're Gnosia or not. The doctor, who can examine who was put in cold sleep the previous night and say whether they're Gnosia or not. There's a person called the AC follower, who doesn't know who the Gnosia are, but is on their side, so they can lie and try to, like, once they figure out who it is, they'll try to keep them alive so that they can win. Mm-hmm. There's guard duty, who's two characters who are guaranteed to be human because they can vouch for each other. And then there is the guardian angel, who can protect one person per loop. And then there's the bug, which is another role that if you live to the end as a bug, you win, rather than the Gnosia or the humans, and you erase that universe, basically. So the concept of this is you and one other character named Setsu have found yourself looping this scenario. And each time you loop, the person who is the Gnosia is different, the number of crew on the ship is different, all the roles are different. And you're trying to basically figure out why you're looping, why the Gnosia are even here, what's happening, and all of that. So you end up getting this key that makes it so you can set conditions for each round, and depending on the conditions, different events might occur that would give you more information as to why things are happening. It's really interesting. I really, really enjoyed it. Something that's really impressive is, like, it at least tricked me into thinking that all the AI are very consistent about their behavior in certain situations. So each of them, there's some like stat elements to this. So each of the other characters on the ship have certain stats and things that they're good at and behaviors that they'll engage in. And you can also increase your stats, which make you better in influencing those other characters. So that's how they make it single player as opposed to multiplayer, basically. So for instance, Shaming is really stealthy. So he doesn't get targeted by the Gnosia very much, and he doesn't stand out very much when he talks. So unless you're purposely throwing attention onto him, it's unlikely that people will throw attention onto him. And because of that, some of his behaviors, at least, that I think I noticed, is like when he's infected by the Gnosia, he won't ever fake a role. Like when you're a Gnosia, you can lie and say that you're an engineer or a doctor. But it makes you stand out if you say that, right? Because people are paying attention to you. And because he's very stealthy and he doesn't like standing out, he won't fake a role. So usually when he says he's something,
he is that thing.
He is that something.
Interesting.
And another one is Karushka. Just is not logical. You can't be like, okay, Karushka, like, here's the logic here. Vote for this person because this person said Gnosia. She decides who she likes within, like, the first 2 rounds, and that's her decision throughout the rest of it. So if she decides she doesn't like you, it's probably in your best interest, even if she's not Gnosia, to get rid of her in the first few rounds. Because it will make it so much harder when you get down to the last few rounds if she's decided that she likes the character who is Gnosia. Yeah. Because you can't change her mind. And all these characters have, like, little consistencies like that. Like, Comet's really good at spotting lies. So if she's not Gnosia, if she's doubting someone, that's a good indication. But if you don't know whether she's Gnosia or not, you have to keep that in mind too, right? Because she might be doubting someone even though she knows that they're, so I was really, really impressed with, like, how, like, I think I did, the loops are pretty fast, but I think when I finished the game, I had done, like, 130 loops. Some of those were just like, well, they decided they hated me the first round, so I was voted out, and stuff like that. But I think I'd done about 130 by the time I reached the end of the game. And throughout those 130 loops, it really makes you feel like you learn their behaviors and, like, why they do things, and are able to deduce, like, what their role might be based just on how they behave in certain roles, which I found really, really impressive. Like, I can't prove, like, I can't go into the program and be like, oh, this is how that works, but as a player, at least made me feel like, even when they weren't being logical, they were being consistent with their personalities, which felt very cool. And also, like, you learn more about them as things go, so to keep it from getting stale, as you learn more about them, their stats go up, and they learn, like, new abilities they can use in the debate. Mm-hmm. So, jump scare moment for me was when one character, Yuriko, who's basically, like, good at everything. She's just, like, the OP character that's very dangerous in debates. But she learned a skill called Retaliate, where if you doubt her, like, you go, like, I think Yuriko's Noshia. She goes, no, I think you're Noshia. And then, like, instead of everybody jumping in with you to, like, agree with you, be like, oh, yeah, she's kind of sus, they can only jump in with her and say, yeah, actually, you're kind of sus. Which is, like, so powerful. Yeah. The first time, there's, like, a little music cue when it happens, like a, whoo. So the first time it happened, I went, oh my god. Which I felt I was really impressed with for just, like, what is just, like, a standard skill use. It's, like, fearing that she will use Retaliate on you. Because it really, like, F's up any play that you're trying to make. So, yeah. I think the story overall, I think it was pretty satisfying for the player character and Setsu, who's looping with you. I wish there had been a little bit more resolution for the other characters, because I liked them and, like, you know, interested in them. And I felt like it just, you learn a lot about them, but they don't really get a story, I guess. But just from a technical standpoint, like, I was really super impressed with the fact that it really made this, like, single player, like, randomized kind of thing. Like, it's not like all these events are scripted into something that felt very, very cool. I posted this when I posted this on Twitter, but, like, peak comedy storytelling that is not at all scripted. You can, like, visit people in between rounds to, like, make them like you more or try to get a sense of what they think of you. So it was down to, like, the last 4 people, and I was like, oh, I'll go say hi to Rakio. And Rakio said to me, why you look so happy about if I was Noshia, I wouldn't let you live. And then during that loop, I died. And Rakio was Noshia. Like, well, they told me, I guess. It was like, so the system is really set up for nice little, like, story things that aren't even, like, the scripted events, that are just, like, that was peak comedy to me, so that was some slapstick humor. Anyway, that's Noshia. I recommend it. It's on Switch. It's good.
Well, real quick, the podcast games roundup. Obviously, for the show, this past 6 weeks, I played some of Heavy Rain, I played some of Genshin Impact, and I played some of The Pathless. I haven't played any more of any of those games since the episodes about them. I will probably not return to Heavy Rain. I feel like I got the gist there.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to play more Genshin Impact, and then maybe it's just that I just didn't need that kind of, like, gameplay loop in my life at this point. I'm not going to uninstall it. It'll be around, but I didn't return to that. And then I just didn't. I really meant to play more of The Pathless this week, and I said last time, oh, I'll be sure I finish it, so it's not in, like, the next one randomly. And here we are, so check back in 6 weeks when I've probably finished that game. And then my final game is not even one I played, but Clickbait Boyfriend went back to Animal Crossing for the first time in, like, 6 months. And everyone was like, where have you been? And there were roaches in his house, and all that. But it was so soothing. It was so soothing. I don't know if it was the nostalgia of it or just that Animal Crossing is very soothing, but just him, like, running around doing Animal Crossing things, I was like, this is a good gameplay experience. Yeah. And just think, at this time last year, I was playing, like, 4 hours of Animal Crossing a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll wrap up my rest of my games quickly because I've just played bits of them. I started Odin Sphere, which is from, I mentioned a couple of these ones ago that I'd played 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, and this is one of their previous games, only it's more action focused instead of being like a visual novel. So there's a bunch of characters and you play through their stories and it's sort of action gameplay and it's fun. There's this framing device that I don't know if it will actually play into the story, but like the menu where you like select characters, you're like this little girl like reading books basically. There's also a cat that you can pick up and pet.
Of course.
For fun. So you like pick up books and you pick up in like the certain chapter of that character's story. So I've been playing the Vicarious story because that was the book on the floor at the beginning. So I assumed they wanted me to play it first. And going through that. It's fun. I really like the gameplay. The action feels really snappy. I feel like I'm being challenged without it being challenging, I guess. So it's good. I've played some more of Heaven's Vault. I'd said last time that it doesn't let you go back to locations. I was slightly wrong about that. It does let you go back to some locations.
Got it.
Like there's like three main, like there's some like main city hubs that it does let you go back to, which I hadn't realized. So I'm glad about that. I do think 6 still asks you if you want to go back to the ship too much. I wish there was just like a button that could be like, okay, 6, I want to go back to the ship, instead of them
I would still need a "Are you sure?" prompt.
Yeah. An "Are you sure?" prompt would be good. But I just wish they didn't ask me like every time I found something. Like, oh, you found something new. You ready to go back to the ship? It's like I've only looked at
2 things.
One area of this place. Please stop. I'm aware it's sort of in their character, but
yeah,
whatever. It's just. I'm still enjoying that. I'm going through it slowly. But I really like the translating system and like learning what different words are, and I like sort of the historical mystery that's unraveling, I guess. Not real history, fake history.
Sure.
Which again is kind of impressive that they've made this like pretty believable fake world and history, going back to our world building side quest from the beginning of this loop. And then I have played 5 more games from the Black Lives Matter bundle from Itch. I missed 1 week because I was cleaning, basically. I played a little bit of Ethereal. It's a puzzler. I might have talked about this last time, but I'll do it now anyway. I got stuck really, really early in it, but it has really nice sound design. It's really punchy. It sticks with you. I played Astrologaster, probably about half or 3/4 of it. It's like a little comedy musical game. You give people medical advice based on like astrology. And there's little songs in between, which is cute. The humor didn't always hit for me, and I felt like it was too long, hence why I didn't finish it. I felt like I got the point.
Not mad for me.
But it was charming. If you like that sort of thing, maybe you would like it. I played a bit of Signs of the Sojourner, which is like a deck building game, a deck building conversation game. So you get these cards that have symbols on each side, and you have to have a conversation with someone by having you and them play cards that link up the symbols in order to make progress in your conversation. Which is very cool and also made me very stressed, so I didn't keep going with it. I think it's a really cool system. It just like triggered like real social anxiety in me.
No.
Because it felt like having a unsuccessful conversation, and it wasn't super pleasant. I played some of Oh Geez, Oh No, My Rabbits Are Gone, where you play as a girl whose all her rabbits have run away.
Oh geez.
And you sort of solve puzzles by commanding the rabbits to do things to get out of whatever silly situation they found themselves in. I found the controls a little finicky, but the concept is cute, and I liked the sort of art style. And then I played Watch Me Jump, which is like an hour-long visual novel based on someone's like unproduced play. I think going into it expecting a play is probably the best way to do it. But I found it engaging enough. It definitely doesn't have any visual merits, but it was fun. It was good. It was interesting to play. I played through it. It definitely felt like a play. And that's it for me.
Well, folks, that's what we've been playing these past 6 weeks. What's been spinning on your system or digitally whirring in your computer? I don't understand how digital games work, obviously. You can let us know. Chat with us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. So hit us up there if you've been playing anything fun or have any recommendations or have opinions on the games that we've been playing. We'd love to hear about them. You can also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games that are in the hat that we pull from for our main editions, and also check out the blog featuring long-running series Clickbait Boyfriend. Vote now. Would you rather have Clickbait Boyfriend play Persona 5 Royal, or would you rather have him play Yakuza 0 once I've finished all of the Yakuza games? He's been floating both ideas, and I've been like, I don't know. I still haven't finished the Kingdom Hearts stuff. We'll be doing Toei Neo when that comes out, though. That's a Kingdom Hearts game. And also Split Screen, where we're watching My Hero Academia, and we're still a little bit behind the premiere this week. But
well, we're caught up. The blogs are a little behind.
Right. Emma and I are caught up, so feel free to tweet us about things, I guess. But the blog...
Also, we are watching the dub, so I don't know when we'll be.
Right. That is what I was about to say. We're caught up to the dub. We watched the dub. At this point, I cannot switch to the sub. I just can't. So check those out and other content periodically.
I'm very selflessly waiting for you.
Thanks,
so
I appreciate that.
Hope you appreciate it.
It's the recap episode. That's not selfless. I'm doing you a favor.
Apparently it's not recap, it's just original.
Oh, never mind then. Anyway, you should also subscribe to the show. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Casts. Wherever you can find podcasts, you can find Talk This. Next week, the old game is Skyrim.
And the new game is BPM, Bullets Per Minute.
Thanks for jumping in. That was nice and choreographed and made me look like I knew what the new game was.
It was on purpose. Rehearsed, even.
CBB is very excited for me to play Skyrim. So that'll probably be the one this time. But who knows? Maybe I'll end up playing both. Finally, work eases up a smidge. Maybe.
Well, do you want to sign us out for this time?
Yeah, folks. This week, I hope that your arcs are fully fleshed out.